mentorship saved me from suicide. I remember it was about 20 years ago. I dropped out of school, out of college. Not for the first time, technically for the second time. Now, I'm Nigerian. Now, in my culture, dropping out of school is none of the things that is expected to happen from you. As Nigerians, we take education incredibly important. So dropping out of college the first time, while it was bad enough, dropping out the second time made me in a class all by myself. It brought incredible shame to my parents, to my friends, and the people around me. It was so embarrassing, the thought of letting my parents down, because I'm the first son and the first child of my parents. I'm the one who everyone thought was most likely to succeed. And to have the investment that my parents had put into me go to waste made me feel like I couldn't take it anymore. Now, before I decided to do something stupid, I remember picking up the phone to call a particular individual who at the time was and still is an incredible role model to me. And knowing how incredibly busy this individual was, I flipped something. And I said, God, if he picks up the phone and spends a minute with me, I'm not going to do anything drastic. But if he doesn't, let it be known that I've done my best. And so I picked up the phone to call this incredibly busy consultant, motivational speaker, and leader. And on the first ring, he picked up. And in picking up the phone, he probably heard the frustration, the sadness, and the pain in my voice. He told me much later that he was actually on the way to a radio interview to be live broadcast. But that day, he spent 12 minutes on the phone talking me off the ledge. And he missed that radio interview. And he did that for me. Everyone starts out as a role model. Few become mentors. Even fewer become coaches. I like to think of mentorship as a parenting relationship, because that's what mentorship is. It's parenting. It's the ability to use your light to light another person's candle, while coaching is also the ability to cause another individual to forge their own light so that they can shine brightly in the world. I have a 12-year-old, Paris, and I love her incredibly much. This leads to my first point, and I'm going to tie this together, that mentorship requires vulnerability and intimacy. You know, we live in a generation today where everyone is all buttoned up, and chief executive officer of Me, Myself, and I Incorporated, we've got beautiful social media handles that are curated. We many times post the best filters and the best photoshopped pictures of our reality without letting people really get close to us to see our curves and edges, like the John Legend song says. Mentorship requires vulnerability. It requires allowing someone to come behind the curtain. And so I've got this incredible 12-year-old who, back when we were living in Nigeria, at the age of 5, she had published her first book. At the age of 5, she had become a millionaire. Oh yes, don't ask me where the money is. And having this little girl just live and be around us requires some level of intimacy and vulnerability. And as a parent, I know we all don't admit to having disagreements with our spouses, but my daughter has many times, unfortunately, seen my wife and I disagree. And in disagreements and vulnerability, while she recognizes that her father is quote unquote a celebrity where he's coming from, she gets to see him as a real person. Mentorship requires people getting to see you as the real person. No filters, no Photoshop, just you. Now, in order to do this, mentorship requires intimacy. I believe it was someone, I think it was Bishop T.D. Jakes, who defined intimacy as into me see. Intimacy requires people seeing you as you are. Many times I've had the privilege to mentor young people, executives, business owners, and when they ask the secrets of my success, it's very easy to say things like, well, I've got a great team, which is true. Or I'm incredibly brilliant, which is also true. But the truth is, I don't know everything. And I must have the vulnerability and the honesty to recognize that I don't have it all together. Which leads to the next point, talking about coaching. And remember that I said coaching is allowing an individual to find their own light and give them psychological permission to shine. But here's what I found about coaching. Coaching is tough love. Coaching is tough love. As a coach, I've been privileged to work with so many individuals and organizations, and I think of my role as a potter working on a clay pot who has a vision of what this pot should be. But it is my responsibility to apply pressure. And I don't know about you, if you've been coached, you recognize that not everyone likes pressure. Pressure many times makes people run away. But the beautiful thing about a potter who's working on the clay is that when he applies pressure, he smooths out the rough edges. He smooths out the kinks. He smooths out the imperfections and the impurities. As a Nigerian parent, education is incredibly important in our culture. So when my daughter gets back from school, after she's had an amazing day, the first thing her mom says is, oh yeah, it's time for lessons, which means that she has to sit for about an hour, irrespective of what she's learned in school, and sits and studies again. Now, for some people, that may be tough. And even for my daughter, sometimes she complains, why am I studying so hard? Can't I take a break? And we give her breaks. Don't get it twisted. We give her breaks. But we recognize that our job, just like the potter, is that while we have a sense of the vision of what she could be, sometimes we need to apply a little bit of pressure. Which brings me to my third point. And as a parent, I've recognized this. Coaching is not cloning. Now, with a sense of vision, with a sense of direction, we run the risk of making our proteges into our own image and likeness. As a parent, many times, you also want to create your children in your image and likeness. Coaching isn't about producing clones of yourself. Coaching is about making an original mold of one. And it's quite difficult to do. Because as a coach, sometimes we run the risk of living our lives through the people that we are privileged to serve. So give an example. If I never made it, for example, if I wanted to study medicine, but I never got the opportunity to go to medical school for whatever reason, something inside of me still nurses that dream. And if I'm not careful, I pass that dream to my daughter. It's not her dream. It's my dream. Trying to find an expression through her. Coaching isn't about cloning. Coaching isn't about producing clones of yourself. It's about creating originals. Which then leads me to another point that I've realized in this whole coaching experience, is that coaching requires you to understand and accept the limitations of your proteges. As a business coach, I'm many times frustrated when I work with my clients and we set a goal, and sometimes while applying pressure and giving them that direction and helping them, I realize sometimes that they don't really want it as bad as I want it for them. And that's the hard part. Recognizing what they could have had compared to what they allow themselves to have. And it frustrates me to no end. But I've learned as a coach that fish don't fly. I've learned that you can't coach a fish to fly. I've learned to understand and very difficultly accept the limitations of those I'm privileged to serve. Coaching requires you to bring out the potential of those you serve, even if they don't reach your performance standards. My final point is this. In the whole mentoring and coaching dynamic, success at the end of the day is about what the protege wants it to be, not what you want it to be. So as a parent, when I speak to my daughter Paris, and every other day she tells me she wants to be an astronaut, she wants to be a this, she wants to be a that, sometimes I have to struggle with, I think this might be great for you and this might be great for you. But at the end of the day, I don't want her marching to the beat of my own drum. I want her marching to the beat of her own drum. Because success at the end of the day is about what the individual wants it to be and cheering them all the way. And I'll say this to close. Everyone starts out as a role model, and role models we are. Fewer people get the privilege to be mentors, but even fewer get the privilege and honor to be coaches. Find your space. Thank you.